A very good afternoon to you, Trent. Do give us the latest from Russia.
Well, we know that those reports just continue to come out of Russia, that this mercenary group is continuing in its march northwards towards Moscow, and that there is conflict in some spots between it and Russian forces. Now, of course, there is just so much moving on the ground here. The story is incredibly fluid, but what we are able to confirm, it would appear, is that those calls from President Putin to the mercenary group to stand down are just not being listened to right now, and that they're continuing in this armed insurrection, I suppose you could call it. Now, of course, Europe watching all of this very, very closely. We've just heard from the EU Foreign Affairs Chief, Joseph Borrell. He says he has spoken with G7 foreign ministers and that the crisis centre in Brussels has been activated. The German Foreign Ministry, where I am, has just issued new travel advice telling all German nationals not to travel to Russia. So look, this situation continuing to unfold really at light speed, it would appear. And I think the scale, the severity, the size of it all has just caught many, many people here in Europe by surprise.
Trent, look, there are currently reports here that, of course, the Wagner group is gaining quite support in the southern part of Russia. How true are these reports? What are you seeing on the ground?
Well, look, I mean, the videos that we are seeing and state media reports from Russia suggest that they are very much embedded in that city of Rostov-on-Don inside of Russia. It's about 1 million people there. They are said to be holding the main military base in the town, the main airfield, and that is not just important because it's a major Russian city, the 11th biggest actually in the country population-wise, but it's the main feeder city for Russia's war effort over the border in Ukraine. It is from that city that ammunition is sent, that fuel is sent, that food is sent to all those Russian troops currently fighting in Ukraine. So look, if this mercenary group is holding it, well, that is an incredibly strong, I suppose, negotiating tool that it has, because it really has the whole Russian war effort at its mercy now. So for that reason, I think that is why we are seeing this alarm within the Kremlin. We saw President Putin go on national television there. He would not have done that if he thought he was able to, I suppose, squash this quietly. And we will just have to continue to watch this story. It's an extraordinary moment to be witnessing here in Europe, I have to say.
Absolutely. Now, Trent, I mean, a lot of analysts have, of course, suggested this could be, Russia could be teetering on a mini civil war within Russia. But what do you read into this situation?
I mean, it's always very difficult to analyse Russian politics and Russian domestic affairs because there's so often smoke and mirrors and information and counter-information. But, this is not normal. This is not how a country like Russia should normally operate. We've got a private mercenary group opening fire, it would appear, on the official army, a president under siege in the Kremlin, reports of presidential aircraft leaving Moscow, trenches being dug around the capital, apparently waiting for these armoured troops to arrive that launching this insurrection. All I can say, I suppose, is there are many dates in people's minds that we all remember from history where we were. One of the ones here where I'm in Germany is November 9th, 1989. It is when behind me there, that Berlin Wall came crumbling down in a matter of hours, setting off a series of events which ultimately led to the fall of the USSR. I'm not saying that that's where we're heading, but things can move just so quickly. And with, as I say, an armed insurrection now within the country of Russia, it is a fool's game to try and predict what would happen next.
Look, with Putin, Trent, saying that he will punish those involved in this mutiny, how exactly do you think he might retaliate? I mean, we've heard that, of course, the armed forces have already received instructions and orders to retaliate.
Yeah, and a public call from Putin for those mercenaries to stand down. Clearly now both sides have seen this bickering, this arguing, which has happened for months in the background, now spill out into the public arena. I think now it's very hard for either side to be brought back from the brink here, for this to be calmed down in a negotiation style format, given how far it has gone. I think it's also worth mentioning as well from the Ukrainian perspective, they probably can't believe their luck because they're in the middle of trying to launch a counteroffensive against the Russians, and then seemingly overnight, the Russians have started a major argument amongst themselves and are now fighting one another. So the Ukrainians, I would imagine, are probably preparing for some military action to try and take advantage of that. But the thing we also just have to briefly mention, Russia is the world's largest nuclear power. It is the largest nuclear stockpile in the world. Missiles scattered right across the country in military bases across the country, military bases now which seem to be chess pieces in this war between the two sides. So look, it is a dangerous game, and I think for that reason there's a lot of nervousness right now amongst Europe and its neighbours about what could happen and making sure that this doesn't spiral into anything bigger, bringing the entire region into it.
Trent, we're definitely going to be, of course, following this story with intent. That is our correspondent, Trent Murray, live to us from Berlin.